Thank you, Ian, and thank you to Salim for a very engaging and compelling overview of the challenge of medical professionalism in the 21st century. I think you're going to be quite a hard act for me to follow. But anyhow, from the perspective of someone who leads an organisation involved in regulating health practitioners, this conference is happening at a unique and critical time in the evolution of healthcare in Australia. And I think as one example of the changing world of healthcare highlighted by Sir Liam, the regulation of health practitioners in this country has undergone momentous change in the past 2 years. This has seen a move from state and territory-based practitioner regulation to the National Registration and Accreditation Scheme. Across 10 health professions, including medicine, 65 laws, 85 health practitioner boards and 34 different regulatory organisations have been replaced with a largely nationally consistent law, 10 new national health practitioner boards supported by a single regulatory organisation, AHPRA, to administer the new multi-professional National Registration and Accreditation Scheme. For medicine, this has led to the establishment of the Medical Board of Australia, chaired by Dr Joanna Flynn, who's here today in the audience, supported by boards and committees and AHPRA officers within each state and territory. Australia has a long and proud tradition of regulation of medical practitioners, dating back to 1837 in Van Diemen's Land, as Tasmania was then known, and which in fact predates the General Medical Council in the UK by 21 years. So an important challenge for the Medical Board of Australia, supported by AHPRA, is to build on the best of what has gone before, while continuing to adapt and modernise our approach to regulation of health practitioners with a prime focus on public protection and patient safety. So in responding to the presentation of Sir Liam, let me pose 3 key challenges that I see for the National Registration and Accreditation Scheme, particularly in the interface of professionalism and regulation. Firstly, how do we ensure that the way we regulate health practitioners best supports and strengthens the hallmarks of a new vision of professionalism as set out by Sir Liam? This clearly includes knowledge and skills, but Sir Liam also extended the concept of professionalism to encompass compassion, constant improvement and patient-centredness. Arguably, the Medical Board of Australia has many significant levers of influence to shape medical professionalism. For example, setting the standards for registration, guidance on key areas of professional practice, taking action in relation to individual practitioners when standards may have been breached, and in partnership with the Australian Medical Council, accrediting the education of medical practitioners. One area which I know is of great interest to colleges is an increasing focus on how we best link registration and licensure to evidence of lifelong skill, learning and competence as a health practitioner. We see the core of this in the requirement for evidence of continuing professional development as a mandatory standard for all health practitioners who are nationally registered. And as briefly touched upon by Sir Liam, I think the approach to issues such as revalidation being implemented in the UK is of much interest to many here in Australia. While each country is unique, I believe there is much that we can learn from international experience such as this. My second challenge goes to the issue of how we ensure the public interest is best served by a model of professionally led regulation. Of interest, Sir Liam highlighted that some believe that self-regulation is one of the aspects of professionalism that needs to be abandoned. In the National Registration and Accreditation Scheme, we have largely professionally led regulation. It is the national boards, not AHPRA, who have the major regulatory policy and decision-making role. However, these distinctions in roles are not always well understood from the outside, and of course AHPRA and the Medical Board of Australia work together very closely. At its best, self-regulation represents the desire of the medical community to take responsibility for addressing the shortcomings of their peers. Clearly, such professionalism is a very important asset, not only for regulation, but for much of what we are trying to achieve in engaging frontline clinicians to improve the wider quality and safety of the healthcare system. On the other hand, self-regulation is often portrayed, particularly in the media, as practitioners looking after their own, without a clear and sufficient focus on the public interest. A recent UK review of regulation and professionalism suggested 3 key elements of this debate. Firstly, who has the right to be involved in regulating health practitioners? Secondly, who has the expertise required to fulfil specific regulatory functions? And thirdly, who can be trusted to do these things? It is this question of trust that leads me to my third and final challenge. How do we maintain and build public confidence in professionalism and our system of regulation? Clearly, it is not just in the UK, as Sir Liam illustrated in the mid-staff's example, where the trust and confidence of the community has been buffeted over the past few years by well-publicised failures of regulation to protect the public. This inevitably leads to the question of the transparency of our regulatory systems. In the changing paradigm of professionalism, is there more we should be doing to make our systems of regulation much more open to the public and the community? This is a complex, hotly contested area, particularly when it comes to judging where the public interest lies. You may have seen a recent debate in the Australian media, which was headlined, "Misleading Healthcare Register Puts Patients at Risk." Essentially, it argued that national boards and AHPRA should be doing more to publish disciplinary records for doctors, nurses and other health practitioners on the national registers. This went to the heart of the issue about how a regulatory system balances the public's right to access information about the disciplinary history of an individual practitioner with the need to ensure natural justice and fairness to practitioners. There's clearly no simple answer to this question. However, I would predict that there will inevitably be a continuing expectation of greater openness as a result of the changing nature of the relationship between the community and the health professions and the information age in which we all live. I think this will be an important area of ongoing debate. Thank you.